After my manager screamed, "You're replaceable. Anyone can do your job," I took off my badge, smiled, and walked out. They laughed. Until 2 months later, when the project collapsed without me. Now they're paying me $150 per hour to fix it, alone. My old manager sends me emails titled, "Urgent." I don't even open them. He screamed it across the floor in front of 42 people. "You're replaceable. Anyone can do your job." I was holding a soldering iron, halfway through repairing the last voltage regulator on a custom board I designed from scratch. His spit hit the rim of my safety glasses. Burned, for a second. Not because of heat, because of clarity. I took off my badge, laid it on the desk next to the heatsink I'd been shaping by hand for 3 days and walked out. No tantrum, no speech, just silence loud enough to peel paint. They laughed. They always laugh when they think they've won. Week 1, nothing. I picked up 2 consulting gigs from a freelancer board, did some PCB repair for a robotics club out of a garage in Glendale. Slept better than I had in years. Week 2, a recruiter messaged me on LinkedIn. "Saw your work at company name. Curious if you're open to project-based consultation." I ghosted it. Wasn't ready to even see the logo again. Week 3, word started to trickle in from ex-coworkers who still had souls. They'd hired a guy from Boston, supposedly a genius in embedded systems. He quit on day 8. Said the documentation made no sense. Said the wiring diagrams were the electrical equivalent of someone scribbling in blood. They brought in a second guy. This one from Austin. Big on certifications, LinkedIn full of acronyms. He lasted 17 days. Couldn't get the bootloader to run without hardbricking the unit. Asked for original firmware. Trevor gave him a corrupted clone someone had tried to reverse engineer from a prototype I'd wired with borrowed components. Week 5, the third guy. Young, ambitious, a little too eager. He stuck around a whole month. By the end, he was pulling 14-hour days trying to track phantom voltages and undocumented subroutines buried 3 layers deep in custom logic I'd written 6 months before. When he quit, he left a post-it on Trevor's door that just said, "You deserve this." By then, the prototype was officially declared non-functional. Marketing pulled the campaign. Buyers walked. The board started asking questions nobody wanted to answer. It had been nearly 2 months. I was working out of a co-op space in downtown, drinking free kombucha and building small tools for companies that didn't treat me like furniture. I hadn't spoken a word to anyone from my old job. Then the emails started. First one was short. From HR. "Hey, just reaching out to see if you'd be open to a short-term consultation. We've had some challenges with the current prototype." I didn't respond. 3 days later, a longer email. Subject: urgent, product timeline at risk. This one was from the CTO. "We're encountering some critical issues with the main board stability and thermal thresholds. We understand you had unique insight into the original architecture. We'd be happy to discuss any compensation you feel is fair." I replied. 1 sentence. $150/hour. Remote only. No contact with Trevor. They agreed in under 20 minutes. The first thing I asked for was the unit's current schematic. It looked like someone had tried to translate Shakespeare into Morse code using a dead battery and a blindfold. I rewrote the firmware from scratch over a weekend, annotated everything in triplicate, then sent a list of components to reorder because, shocker, Trevor had replaced half the BOM with cheaper alternatives that couldn't handle continuous draw. 3 days later, the unit worked flawlessly. I've been back on contract for 3 weeks now. No meetings, no calls, just invoices. Clean, cold, surgical. Trevor sends me emails titled, "Urgent, need fix ASAP," and "Critical issue, please help." I don't open them. Not because I'm being petty, because I don't have to. His job depends on someone he said was replaceable. Turns out, replacement parts don't work if you never understood the machine. Update 1. First off, thanks for the responses. I wasn't expecting much when I posted. Maybe a few people nodding quietly to themselves. But I guess there are more of us out there. People who've been told they're cogs, disposable, interchangeable. Who've heard someone in a position of power say, "Anyone could do what you do." Like that's not an insult laced in blind arrogance. So yeah, here's where things stand. I'm still consulting, clocking hours from the comfort of a quiet room, 3 monitors, and a French press I don't have to share with passive-aggressive coworkers who never clean it. I bill weekly. They pay without question, which is ironic considering I used to have to beg to get basic equipment approved. The project I walked out on, I still can't say too much. There are NDAs now, but I'll say this. It's defense adjacent. Not full-on weapons grade, but close enough that subcontractors are under constant audit. The prototype wasn't some toy, it was part of a modular system being pitched for border surveillance and remote asset deployment. Custom communication stacks. Power-efficient microcontrollers. Hardened casings. The kind of tech that, if done right, could lock in 8 figures worth of government interest. And if done wrong, it could overheat, glitch, brick itself, or misreport data in the field and people could die. So yeah, when I walked, I didn't just quit a job. I yanked the keystone from a house built on lies and duct tape. The CTO knows it now. He's the one who actually sent the official offer for my consulting contract. He hasn't said it out loud, but it's clear he's doing damage control, trying to salvage a project he let Trevor steer into a ditch while he looked the other way. Speaking of Trevor, we're at war. Not with swords. Not with screaming. With silence. He still technically runs the team, though he's been marginalized. Demoted in everything but title. I'm not allowed to interact with him. That was part of my contract. I deliver my code, my schematics, my recommendations, everything through the CTO's assistant who's smart enough to know where the landmines are buried. But Trevor? Trevor doesn't like that. He sent me 14 emails since I came back. All of them ignored. The last one was titled, "I have questions." All caps. No punctuation. Just rage in subject line form. I didn't read it. Didn't need to. Because I know what it says. He's scared. Scared that I'm the guy who can finish the job without him. Scared that the people above him are starting to realize he's the one who got in the way. But here's the twist. They haven't told the team I'm back. As far as the rank and file know, they're just bringing in an outside consultant to help clean things up. No name. No access to internal Slack. No profile on the company org chart. I'm a ghost in the machine. And the best part? Trevor has to use my work. Every line of code. Every design tweak. Every circuit patch. He can't admit it came from me, but he also can't fix the problems without it. He's trapped. Pretending he's still in control while regurgitating solutions he couldn't write in his sleep if someone held a gun to his head. I've heard, through back channels, that he's been throwing tantrums. Called a junior engineer a useless waste of carbon in front of the whole team last week. HR gave him a warning. Not because they care, but because now that failure's starting to smell expensive, people are covering their asses. Let's talk about the system. The heart of the prototype is a compact logic stack I designed custom. No off-the-shelf libraries. No plug-and-play architecture. It's mine, built layer by layer out of sheer necessity. The original specs were impossible. They wanted a heat footprint under 50C running continuous signal processing with a self-powering redundancy fallback. No one thought it could be done. I did it. But I did it by cutting away every luxury. Every safety net. I coded in pure C. I wrote my own memory handlers. Used bitwise operations most of these people haven't touched since college. Optimized for power, not elegance. It's ugly. It's raw. But it works. And they can't replicate it. Because Trevor's replacements? The ones he tried to shove into my role? They tried to clean it. To improve it. And like rookies soldering over a trace they didn't understand, they shorted the whole board. That's why I'm back. And why Trevor's unraveling. There's a new development though. Last week I got a call from someone unexpected. Not from the company. From a defense contractor. A big one. They'd heard whispers about the project, about the unidentified consultant who salvaged the prototype. NDA or not, someone inside had been talking. The guy on the phone didn't even dance around it. "We know it was you," he said. "You interested in something long-term?" I said no. For now. I'm not ready to get swallowed again. But it felt good. Like the universe whispering, "You were never the problem." Now here's the kicker. Trevor tried to take credit. Apparently, during a meeting with one of the subboard directors, he casually slipped in a line about finally cracking the logic issue. The director, who knew more than Trevor realized, asked him one question. "How do you fix the overflow condition on the memory gate between modules C and F?" Trevor froze. Because that wasn't documented. It was buried inside a wrapper I only sent to the CTO's assistant. Labeled temp_patch_v13_final_actual fix.c because I'm still human. Trevor floundered. Said something about delegated work and group effort. The director nodded. And later that day, my rate got bumped by $25 an hour. No explanation. Just a revised contract and a note that said, "Appreciate it." So yeah, I'm still a ghost. Still silent. But every day I chip away at the thing they tried to bury me under. And Trevor? He's stuck in the wreckage pretending not to choke on the dust. Update 2. I've been quiet for a reason. You don't sharpen the blade while everyone's watching. You wait until they forget you're holding it. Trevor's still employed for now. But I've started carving the exit wound. Not publicly. Not with HR. With data. Let's rewind. After my last update, things escalated behind the scenes. My prototype patch didn't just fix the board. It made it outperform the original spec. Faster boot time. Lower heat ceiling. Power consumption slashed by 23%. That wasn't luck. That was intentional. Because I wanted a smoking gun. I added performance markers into the firmware. Flags that track usage patterns, component wear, and voltage fluctuations. Standard stuff, except I wrapped it in encrypted diagnostic logs that ping my server hourly. Trevor didn't notice. Because Trevor doesn't read code. He reads summaries. And the summaries all say the same thing. System stable. Project viable. Consultant indispensable. 3 weeks ago, the CTO invited me to a private call. No assistant. No HR rep, just him, camera off, voice low. He asked one question. How much damage can Trevor still do? I didn't answer. I sent him a folder. Inside, internal memos where Trevor overrode QA decisions, Slack transcripts where he dismissed bug reports, emails where he authorized component swaps without engineering review. All timestamped. All traceable. The CTO was quiet for almost a full minute. Then he said, would you be open to attending a stakeholder demo next month? I told him the truth. I don't want a seat at the table. I want to set the table. And he agreed. So here's what I did. I built a backdoor into the firmware. Before anyone panics, it's not malicious. It doesn't affect core function. But it lets me trigger a subtle malfunction, a delayed startup sequence that makes it look like the power module is failing under specific conditions. The trigger? A specific handshake protocol that only initiates when someone accesses the debug mode using Trevor's admin credentials. Why? Because Trevor loves to micromanage. He still logs into the system every night around 11 p.m. trying to find errors he can blame on other people. I wanted him to think he'd found one. So I gave him one. Last Thursday, I got the ping. Trevor accessed the firmware. Triggered the handshake. 36 hours later, he sent an all-company email to the dev team, CCing the CTO and 3 VPs. Subject line, critical firmware defect, immediate action required. In it, he wrote, I've identified a fatal flaw in the consultant's recent build. Device fails to boot after accessing advanced config modules. Recommend rollback to previous stable build pending further review. I let it sit. Didn't respond. The CTO did. He replied all. Let's discuss this in the Monday demo. No panic. No support. Just a quiet line in the sand. Monday came. I flew in. Company paid for everything, first class, executive car, private room at the hotel with blackout curtains and silent HVAC. They wanted me rested. I wore black. Walked in with a tablet and a single USB drive. The room was full, CTO, VPs, legal, a couple of investor reps. Trevor was there too. Pale. Sweating. Still wearing that ratty blazer he thinks makes him look authoritative. The CTO opened the meeting. Said the prototype would now demonstrate real-time load handling under stress scenarios. I plugged in the USB. Ran the firmware. Smooth. Seamless. Every benchmark exceeded. Then I clicked into debug mode. The one Trevor used. The room watched as a warning popped up. Warning. Unauthorized access detected, admin flag triggered. Trevor shifted in his seat. The CTO asked, what's that? I explained. A diagnostic flag I built. It only triggers when someone with outdated admin credentials tries to access protected modules. I paused. Let that land. Last week, this flag was triggered by an account labeled Trevor_admin_override. The resulting startup delay was intentional to indicate unauthorized manipulation. Silence. Then I pulled up the logs. Trevor's IP. Timestamped. Repeated access attempts. Every time resulting in the false error he'd emailed about. I looked him dead in the eye. You didn't find a bug, Trevor. You tripped an alarm. He opened his mouth. But the CTO cut him off. Thank you, Trevor. That'll be all for now. Brutal. Quiet. Surgical. He didn't say you're fired. He didn't have to. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Trevor stood, face gray. He looked like someone had unplugged his nervous system. Like his spine had been replaced with wet tissue. He walked out without a word. After the door closed, the CTO turned to me. Would you be interested in leading the integration phase? I smiled. No, but I'll build it on my terms. And then I dropped the second bomb. I want exclusive licensing rights to the logic stack. Non-transferable. Royalty-based. There was a pause. Then a nod. Legal took note. I walked out 2 hours later with more than money. I walked out owning the very code they tried to erase me with. Update 3. He's gone. Trevor. Fired, not quietly. And if you think I'm about to tell you it felt good, you're wrong. It felt exquisite. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because this wasn't just a pink slip and a handshake. It was public execution. After the Monday demo, see previous update, the dominoes didn't just fall. They collapsed like someone kicked the table out from under them. See, the CTO wasn't just impressed, I learned later he was furious. Not just at Trevor's sabotage attempts. At himself. At the entire chain of people who let a fragile ego sink a multi-million-dollar product. And me? I was the scalpel. First, they locked Trevor out of the system. Quietly. No announcement. Just revoked credentials. His badge still worked for one day. Then it didn't. He came in Tuesday morning, tried to swipe in. Nothing. Security asked him to step aside. I'm told he yelled. Screamed that it was a mistake and that he was essential personnel. They told him to wait in the lobby. He waited 4 hours. No one came. Meanwhile, inside, I was already restructuring. The CTO handed me a team of 5. Not my old coworkers, new hires, all under NDA, none briefed on the incident. They report to me. Officially, I'm still a consultant. Unofficially, I control the build pipeline, the budget, and all final code commits. I rewrote the architecture documentation. Removed every outdated dependency Trevor approved. Built redundancy into the bootloader. Cleaned up memory leaks. And I left breadcrumbs. You know how in video games you sometimes find those hidden levels only if you know the right code? I did that. But in real life, inside the system, if you enter the wrong credentials 5 times, it locks down for 30 seconds. But the 6th time, if you enter replaceable one as the admin override, the screen flashes once, then shows a message. Built by the man you screamed at in front of 42 people. I didn't tell anyone. That's just for me. For closure. Wednesday, the board met. Emergency session. Topic: contractor control, project viability, personnel risk. Trevor wasn't invited. But I was. They asked about continuity. About documentation. About risk. I handed them a thumb drive. On it, 214 pages of documentation, 5 layers deep, including full hardware abstraction models, test case matrices, and rollback points. Annotated, color-coded, translated into 3 languages. At the end, a single-page executive summary. Title: Why You'll Never Need Another Trevor Again. They didn't even finish reading it. They approved everything. My licensing terms. My hourly increase. My request for complete veto power over any hardware procurement decisions. The CTO sent me a message later that night. You just became the most powerful person here. Quietly. Elegantly. I didn't reply. I was already rewriting the watchdog timer script for the power manager. Couldn't risk a drift error. But Trevor? He finally broke. Thursday morning, he showed up again. Same wrinkled blazer. Same dead eyes. Except this time, he had a cardboard box. Security stopped him at the door. Apparently, he'd gone home, packed up his desk contents like he still worked there, and tried to collect his things. Only problem? We'd already gone through everything. He didn't have a desk anymore. His stuff? Shipped. Logged. Cataloged. The CTO didn't even let him step inside. But Trevor wouldn't leave. He started yelling again. About intellectual property and proprietary knowledge and years of experience. The lobby cameras caught all of it. The moment that really stuck with me? He dropped the box. Paper spilled everywhere. And no one helped him pick them up. Not even security. They just stood there while he scrambled on the floor, grabbing files and photos and half-eaten mints from a drawer that didn't belong to him anymore. That afternoon, an all-hands email went out. Subject: leadership change. It was cold. Sterile. Effective immediately, Trevor McNeil is no longer with the company. We thank him for his service and wish him well in future endeavors. No details. No tribute. No legacy. Just deletion. People messaged me. Old coworkers. Some from other departments. Did you hear? Dude, you won. Is it true you coded the kill switch? I didn't answer most of them. Not because I'm above it. Because I'm still working. Because the product isn't finished. Because power isn't what you get when someone hands you a title. It's what you build when no one's watching. And right now, I'm building something they can't replicate. They know it too. Friday, I got an unexpected call. Private number. I let it go to voicemail. Played it back later. It was Trevor. His voice was hoarse. Thin. You think you won. But you have no idea what they'll do to you once they don't need you anymore. You're just a better-kept version of what I was. I saved the message. For the record. For the moment when I need a reminder of what failure sounds like. So where are we now? Well, the prototype is moving into field testing. The board approved a budget extension. The CTO extended my contract indefinitely. The investors asked for my direct email. And I'm now vetting candidates to run the final manufacturing rollout. But not as an employee. As a stakeholder. Because when I negotiated those licensing rights, I added a clause. Every unit sold using my logic stack, I get a cut. They didn't blink. Didn't even try to counter. Because the truth is, they know this thing only exists because I kept it alive. And Trevor? Trevor was the infection. I was the scalpel. And now? Now there's no one left to stop me from rewriting everything. Not just the system. The culture. The legacy. The entire goddamn company. Update 4 will come when the product ships. Because then I'll tell you what I really built behind the code. Because some ghosts don't just haunt. They inherit. And I'm not done collecting. Not even close. Final update. The launch went perfectly. That's what the press says. Articles ran with headlines like, Next-Gen Surveillance Device Redefines Efficiency and Modular Intelligence, a New Era of Remote Security. Investors clapped. Politicians smiled. CTO shook my hand in front of the board, cameras flashing. He wore a navy suit. I wore black. Always black. The prototype didn't just work, it excelled. Outperformed everything in its class. Passed temperature, load, stress, and sabotage simulations. Even the watchdog script I buried under 5 layers of code fired perfectly under duress. No one saw what it really was. They saw clean outputs. Green lights. Numbers that screamed control. They didn't see what I buried beneath. Here's what they don't know. The codebase they're deploying globally? It has teeth. My logic stack contains over 3,000 custom routines. 6 of them can be activated remotely. 3 of those routines don't appear in any documentation because I made them self-erasing. Triggered only by exact sequences known to no one but me. You see, I told you I was never an employee. But I also lied. I was never just a consultant. I was a weapon they mistook for a tool. The day before launch, I ran one final test. Not in their lab. In mine. I compiled a dummy unit, same hardware, same firmware, but wired through a back channel I embedded 6 months ago. When I entered the override sequence, the device rebooted, wiped itself, then displayed this message. He wasn't replaceable. You were just too stupid to realize who built the walls you locked him behind. Trevor's gone, but his ghost lingers. Not in the code, he never touched that. But in the culture. The arrogance. The belief that control comes from shouting. I proved otherwise. Control isn't loud. It's silent. Elegant. Undeniable. And now? I'm gone too. I declined the equity. Declined the CTO's permanent position. Declined the press interviews, the keynote invitations, the offer to become the face of a revolution. Instead, I deleted every work file on my machine. Shut off the server. Burned the notebooks. Walked away with nothing but a hard drive in a lockbox. They still don't know the extent of what I left behind. But they will. Not today. Not next week. Maybe not even next year. But someday when one of those devices pings the wrong signal, boots just a little too slow, or forgets what it was programmed to remember. They'll call. They'll beg. And I won't answer. Because power wasn't the revenge. The silence afterward? That's the real punishment. And Trevor? If he's out there, still drinking cheap scotch in a cheaper apartment, still muttering about sabotage and betrayal? Good. Let him rot in the echo of the sentence he screamed across the office floor. You're replaceable. Because I wasn't. And now? They all know it. Forever. That's the end. No healing. No redemption. Just one man. One machine. And a silence that even time can't scrub clean.